And with that being said, we're going to move on to our other weekly review. We have to catch up with the latest episode of the Game of Thrones prequel series, House of the Dragon. Episode 5 just premiered this past week on HBO, entitled Regent. And we are certainly at the midway point of this season and now moving into sort of the final moments, the final machinations, all of the chess pieces coming into play as we continue to move on based on last week's really explosive ending of an episode. We're going to dive into spoilers with this one as well and talk about all the nitty-gritty details. But before we do that, we start off with our big picture thoughts and reactions to the episode. So what did you think about episode 5 of House of the Dragon season 2?
We are still cooking with grease to me. I still really, really like this episode. And one of the things I think that this series, this world has always done well is not only of course we enjoy the big crazy set piece episodes like we got last episode where there's dragons fighting and there's so much happening and things are going on, but what the fallout looks like of that, what all the after effects are. And this episode has such a looming presence based off what happened last episode. And it ties it not necessarily ties everything together, but it does everything I think so well to get you to feel that, to get you to feel what every character is feeling in this episode. And there's so many important character moments. There's a lot of one-on-ones. There's a lot of, I think, what are we going to do next things in this episode that felt so right to me, that I really appreciate, man. I think, man, we get some more people talking that we haven't seen before. We get everything happening with the characters makes sense to me, man. And I love how there's still remnants of previous episodes still popping up, and some of them pop up in this episode, and you're like, oh, because that thing happened in episode 2, that's why this thing is happening in episode 6, and so in episode 5, I mean. And so it's just been really cool, I think, to see how they use some of this stuff, man, how they use some of this material and how they use some of the callbacks to everything going down. But I think they're still cooking. I really like this episode as a fallout episode of everything that happened last week. But yeah, I'm still enjoying myself. I think this episode is also tremendous.
So obviously last week's episode, with just how crazy it was, this was going to be an aftermath episode to follow up to just show how everybody's dealing with it. And for that, I thought that this was great. It's a great way to reset everybody, reset just all of the rules, all of the things that are moving, all of the things that are in motion and have to be done in order to continue to progress forward as this war looms over everybody's head. But, you know, I think that the aspect that I enjoyed the most about this episode is how the new generation sort of steps up into leadership in this episode. We see a lot of the younger characters, a lot of the younger cast members start to assume leadership. They start to become some of the main focal points in terms of what's going to happen next. And they've been in the background, they've been looming, you know, and sort of making their own plans, but we're seeing them really live up to their full potential here, because this war requires everybody. Everybody has a stake in this. Everybody has to have a part to play. And this episode focused on a lot of that new generation. And I really thought that was a smart and good decision, because a lot of people are dying left and right. You know, we're losing folks. People are getting taken off of the chessboard. And so you have to just like continue to move forward. That's how it's going to work. You know, at any point in turn, when somebody is out of commission, they're removed from the situation, you have to figure out what's going to be next, who's going to, you know, be the next person to assume leadership or whatever the case may be. And so I think that the movements and the things that were done here, really smart stuff, and also some pretty great character interactions for people having to deal with the consequences of their own actions and how they're internalizing it. But then also I think how people are figuring out ways to return the favor in good and bad ways to just the stuff that's been done. And so very, very interesting stuff here. But with all of that said, let's dive into spoilers and let's talk about this episode in full nitty gritty detail. So if you've not seen the latest episode of House of the Dragon, this is your spoiler warning. Go back, watch the episode, come back and finish out the rest of the conversation. Let's start with Corlys, the husband of Rhaenys, who we saw perish last week. She had the battle with Aemond and Vhagar and just could not overcome just the might and the power of that dragon. And of course, her death is reverberating across all of Westeros at this point. Everybody is feeling the effects of her loss, but most notably her husband, Corlys. We were wondering exactly how he was going to deal with it. Of course, he's grieving. He's very much down and out about this whole situation. He's lost so much. He's now lost her. He's lost his son. He's lost his daughter. I mean, the guy just continuously is losing. And so we see him dealing with that very, very introspective stuff early in the episode. But later in the episode, there's also an interesting development because Bayla, his granddaughter, approaches him to speak to him about how to move forward from this. And Bayla basically communicates to him, like, hey, yeah, Rhaenyra wants you to be the hand to the queen. She wants you at her side. She wants you to be the
Hmm.
advisor. And he seems a little reluctant to the idea initially because he's like, I can't deal with this shit right now. Like, look at what I'm going through. But I think Bayla said something really interesting to him in so far as the fact that Rhaenys wasn't only just your wife. You didn't only just lose a wife. Like, we lost so much more than that. And Rhaenyra's lost
Yeah.
something very important. The entire kingdom, and the entire family, the entire house has lost somebody very, very important. She was the queen to be, she was the queen that never was, as they know her as. But by the end of the episode, it seems like Corlys might accept that position to being Hand of the Queen. So, what did you just make of his entire journey? From where we saw him start, just in a place of being very, very down, obviously about the death of his love, but then maybe finding a new purpose and how to move forward and potentially being side by side with Rhaenyra in this fight.
Yeah, it's been so hard for Corliss, and when somebody is your world, right? As much as Rhaenys was Corliss's world, it was very apparent from up until this point in watching the show that we've seen that they have remained in love. You know what I mean? Corliss would really loved Rhaenys to the core of his being, and when you lose that, and when you feel like all you've gained has been for that person, and of course for his kids, which he has lost, also children. It's like, oh man, are y'all serious right now? Like, of course I'm moping around the castle. I built this castle for my wife and my children. Now what do I do? There's no wife and there's not a lot of children. What's happening here? And so, man, it I can only imagine what Corliss is going through in that moment. And also I think it's right of Corliss too to kind of feel the way of like, are you trying to take advantage of me? You know what I'm saying? Like, you see that I'm in this state right now. I'm just trying to literally grieve my wife, and you ask me to be the hand to you. Like, how dare you? Kind of type thing. Like, what is this? But Bayla kind of got to get him straight. Bayla's like, so you trying to, you can get revenge, right? Like, this is a whole opportunity for you to get revenge. Like, what are you saying to me right now? Like, this is your moment, and not only your moment to get revenge, but like, it's you who's the most fit to be in this position, to be the hand, to be. And I think that's what Rhaenyra seen too. Rhaenyra knew, like, and she wasn't trying to use him in that moment, but also like, no. One, Rhaenyra needs him. Rhaenyra needs somebody else who's actually gone to war because she doesn't have that. Them niggas are kind of useless. Corliss is not though, and so she's like, no, come to my side, be my new running mate. You know what I'm saying? Be my VP. I need you kind of on this thing as somebody who has been to battle. And Bayla tries to make sense of that to him through his grief, because Bayla has been through grief. You know what I mean? Bayla has literally lost her mother in all of this. She knows what it's like, I think, to feel the loss in this way. And so she explains it to him. And like you said, by the end, I think he's like, dang, did my granddaughter just talk some sense into me? Like, this is kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? And so I really like that, man. I really like that it was Bayla that was the one to kind of talk him up into this thing. And yeah, that's it, man. He's now, I think he's ready to go. And like she said, he's seeing salt. She said, I'm gonna be blood and fire, but you got that. I got this. So let's keep it at that.
Yeah, he tried to rewrite the source material, and it's like, no, you can't do that. I'm blood.
Yeah,
I'm
it
blood.
doesn't
Fire.
work like that, sir.
You're seeing salt, so no, we're not doing that. But I thought Steve Toussaint was really good in this episode. My guy did the single Denzel tier, and I'm like, yes, you feel this
Academy Award.
emotion. Just do it. Give him an Emmy right now. And so I love what he brought here. Just the weight of obviously the whole situation at hand and what it means to him.
Mm-hmm.
But Corliss in that position makes all the sense in the world. He's really well respected in this entire situation, also. But I think even when he assumes it, like seemingly by the end of it, we see him sort of embrace the idea of being hand to the queen. It's not just going to be peaches and cream with him and Rhaenyra. I think he's going to be the right person to challenge her too, and to be there to say like, no, we got to think about this differently, and to be, a formidable force and somebody that she'll listen to, because I think she respects him wholeheartedly. And so I think
for sure
that's the needed push she obviously is going to want, but also he's still holding probably a grudge at just like how this all played out. And I think that's going to come out in their interactions as they move forward and have this relationship and this teamwork and this partnership between each other. Over in King's Landing, as they're dealing with the death of Rhaenys, and also now their king Aegon, who has been damn near mortally wounded completely. First of all, we should talk about Corlys, who parades the dragon's head Meleese throughout the steps and the streets of King's Landing, which was a crazy visual, because now he has constructed a narrative to make it appear that they won the battle, when in actuality, y'all lost like hell. It was, I mean, 4-0, just complete fucking sweep, and they lost. He said 900 soldiers. I was wondering how many people they lost. Like 900 is crazy. It's a devastating loss, but obviously they got to spin it, and what he does is he takes the dragon's head and parades it out in front of everybody, and they're calling the dragon a traitor. And I think that they're obviously trying to keep all of the stuff with Aegon and his health under wraps as much as possible. But any thoughts on just like seeing that because that was a pretty striking visual to see this dragon that I think everybody in King's Landing was familiar with and knows. All of a sudden, this huge head, for this fallen dragon is now just, sort of shown in front of the public in that way. I think maybe to incite fear, but it maybe alternatively to also try to win over trust in the idea that they somehow won when we ultimately know deep down that they did not win that battle.
This is an example of so many things, but this is an example of the higher ups have no connection to the people, because I think if you take it from Cole's perspective, it makes sense what you're doing. We won, we slayed a dragon. Look, y'all, they're killable. We did it. But from the people's point of view, it doesn't make sense at all. This is terrible. They fucked this all the way up. They thought they thought dragons were gods. He's like, no, they're just meat. Y'all have dragons, right? You want your dragons to seem like gods as much as possible. Like, that is the Targaryen thing. If you can kill their dragon, that means your dragons can also be killed. You know what I'm saying? That is a terrible idea. Not only that, but Meleese, people know that no dragons. There's only a certain amount of dragons. Even the common folk are like, oh, that's Meleese. Oh, there's Syraxes. Oh, there's this dragon. They probably seen this dragon so many times. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that's that dragon. And to see it killed in this way actually probably frightens them more than anything. And it's so interesting in this moment too, because it's almost like, well, we paraded around Jaehaerys when he got killed, and that kind of worked as a political tactic. Let's do the same thing with Meleese the dragon. Maybe that'll work. Oh, they miss Otto Hightower so much. Oh, they miss him so much because Otto would have never done this. Otto would have never done this in a million years. And so they tore this thing up royally. This is another reason why it's like, Cole, you're good in battle, but this political thing, you don't have a hold on it. And so there's a different kind of worry now in King's Landing, I think, when it comes to seeing this dragon, man. And yeah, it's just funny because Cole thought they was like, they know we won, right? And even the people kind of see through Cole in that moment, like, are we sure that y'all won? Like, this is not a good sign of anything. So yeah, I really like that that whole scene, because it's like there's so much that goes into it, but I think also it's something about that disconnect of them not understanding how the people perceive the Targaryen regime. It's like they don't even get what dragons are there for, and it's like you degraded yourself by showing that dragons can be killed in that way. So yeah, it's so interesting to me.
I think we need two hands. We need like a battle hand, and we need like a political hand, because it's just not working. Nobody is embodying all aspects, I think, of what a hand should be. Like, whole tremendous general on the battlefield. Yeah. Really, really good stuff he's been doing. Obviously, a lot of victories underneath his cap, but this was a terrible political play. And I think this might be a reach, but I think that this might contribute to the downfall of dragons in this whole world. Because at the moment that they're revealed to be mortal, essentially, and that they can be killed, and that there's weapons that can do that, what's to stop anybody from eradicating all of them from this universe, which is what ultimately happens before Game of Thrones. There are no dragons by the time we get to that story. I think stuff like this, even though they don't explicitly say it, I think that this contributes to the downgrade of dragons in this universe. The fact that they are no longer the formidable gods that they're portrayed to be, but in actuality, they're scary as fuck. Obviously, you don't want to come
Mm-hmm.
in the way of one, but there is a way to destroy them. And clearly, when we just lackadaisically parade them around in the streets in this way, that's not going to help the case for how much they're supposed to be feared and respected in certain respects. So yeah, not a great move. But also, in addition to that, Aegon, we see the condition he's in. I mean, he's laying in that bed looking like Harvey Dent. He's all toe up.
Man.
I mean, body's
Yeah.
burned and scalded.
Anakin.
He's looking real bad. They're peeling the armor off of his body. It's so nasty. It's so gross.
It's so bad.
He's in bad shape. He's looking real bad. But immediately, again, as we continue to progress forward, Aemond is already there, and he's like, somebody has to rule in his place. She's telling that to Alicent, and I think Alicent already suspects you were up to some bullshit. You probably weren't so brotherly out there. What did you do? And they have a council meeting to determine who's going to be the king regent, not the official king, but obviously somebody that has to rule in place of Aegon, since he's not going to be able to. He's comatose. He's severely burned. It's going to take him a long time to get back. And despite Alicent's better efforts to try to name herself as Queen Regent, to run things in his stead, and to do so based off of experience, everybody's at the table like, yeah, no, it's not going down like that. We need a man to run this kingdom. And I think even Aemon knew it in that moment. Like he knows that this is a formality. He was just sitting there waiting for it to happen. He's like, "Are you done yet? Are you done?" And finally, after some pretty scathing betrayals from Larys and Cole, who both side with Aemond, they do pick him indeed to be the king regent to rule for the time being. So this might have been the juiciest scene of the whole episode. What did you make of just like everything that went down here, especially on Alicent's side of things? Because I think all of her assets, all of her allies that she thought that she had, that she's working with, they all clearly just, they weren't going to allow her to be in that position based off everything that's happened up until this point.
Man, that patriarchy, it's back. The looming presence over this whole entire show. Wow. But it's so interesting too, because even in that moment, as Alicent is kind of trying to make her claim of why she be her, even she knows like, these niggas are not gonna say yes to this. You know what I'm saying? Even she's like, well, at least gotta try. But she's like, oh my God, they really gonna give it. Cause she has also been saying, like, you know what Aemond is. You know what I mean? Like, she's been telling people she knows it. You know what Aemond is. And she's now like kind of haunting the castle a little bit, like, Kristen Cole, like, what happened out there? You know what I'm saying? Like, what was Aemon's part in all this? He's like, I cannot say. He's just like, oh my God, what is happening? Aemon is this, he's so scary. Everybody's just scared of this kid. But also, there is another side to that, though, too, where he has shown strength in battle. It does make sense. He was the dragon that flew through the skies and helped, defeat Meleys now. He was talking to Kristen Cole first and foremost, or one-on-one, about all the plans leading up into this. It's just, he is so meticulous in everything that he does. It's crazy to see. And so it made so much sense in this moment that, of course, not only they would pick it has to be a man, but they would pick Aemon in that moment too. And like you said, Aemon was so ready. He was so ready. He just picks up the ball and sits down and gets to business. Like, he don't say, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for electing me. None of that. He literally picks up the ball, puts his ball down and goes, yep, let's do this thing, and gets right to business. I was just like, yep. He was really ready to be here. And the craziest thing of it all, it's my favorite moment of the episode, is when that happens and they pan to Alicent for like, it felt like forever. I thought it was like half the episode. Of course, it's probably like 30 seconds, but they literally sit on her face, drown out Aemon's voice, and they just sit there. And Alicent in that moment, to me, is just having a realization about all the bullshit. Like, she has a realization of like, damn, I wish I knew that it was the wrong Aegon. I wish, what I'm saying? I wish I moved differently. Men suck. I just know she was having so many things in that moment. My grandson just got slaughtered a couple weeks ago. My son is laying on the bed, charred to death. All I can do is pray for him at this point. There's just like so much going through her head in that moment. But I thought it was such it was one of my favorite moments of the episode for sure, man. But yeah, what a predicament I think to be in for Alicent's point of view. It's just, man, it's just like, damn, this is all too bad. It's too bad.
She realized how much she has dropped the ball and fucked
She
up.
dropped the shit out the
I mean, everything just haunted her in
Yeah.
that singular minute where she realizes, like, wow, yeah, I really fucked up here, big time, big time. And yes, you did, ma'am. Yes, you did. This was always going to happen because Aemond and Daemon are on a collision course. These are the two that are going to be running this shit, and it's going to be very fucking bloody and a lot of death because these two crazy ass people are in
Crazy
power.
ass
Yes,
people.
absolutely. Let's make the crazy man the guy in charge. Let's put Aemond in charge. Why not? It makes all the sense in the world. He's next in line. He's fucking nuts. That's why it doesn't make any sense. But what are they going to do? They're going to go with their own inhibitions, their own natural inclinations as to what they feel is right, and elect a man to be King Regent. That's what they feel is the right thing to do. And even Cole, knowing what he knows, having the relationship he does with Alicent, for him to just sit there and just like, you know what, it has to be him. It has to be him. There's no other way. It's crazy to see. Like the betrayal. My God, how loud it is in front of everybody. I hope she really sunk that in because since it ain't no going back from that. Because man, that was pretty crazy. But Aemond, he doesn't stop there. He's already off the business. He's like, cut down the rat catchers. We're ending that bullshit. But he also locks in all the people of King's Landing in the city. You can't leave. Nobody's leaving. Everybody, you're staying here. And the people are pissed. They're calling him a liar. They're like, what the fuck? We need to leave. We need to get meat. We need to go get crops, whatever the hell. Y'all probably waited a little bit too long. You probably should have left like 3 hours when you saw Meleese in the city and then parading her around. You might have should have been like, you know what, we probably got to dip. This ain't great. But nobody's getting out now. What do you make of that? Because that's a pretty big development to where people just cannot leave. It's like a prison now. King's Landing has literally become a real life prison, even though it's supposed to be the capital city of all of Westeros.
Man, this dude is wreaking havoc, and I think we knew it was going to be like this in a particular way because Aemon is, again, so meticulous about all the things that he's trying to do. But even more so, he doesn't want to be like anybody that came before him either. It feels like every rule before him, he's always had a critique of, or he's always trying to move around them in some way. But now that it's him, it makes sense that, things are kind of more controlled chaos. You know what I'm saying? People aren't getting hung and being like, oh, look, everybody, these people are being hung. Instead, it is more so of a control, like, y'all can't go nowhere because we don't. Yeah, we gotta keep control of this thing. And I think it's a different kind of control that Aemon is kind of shooting for here. But I know the people are afraid, and what's so interesting about it is actions like this that are going to lead into what Rhaenyra is now planning in trying to kind of be one with the people. This stuff is going to come back full circle eventually, and it's going to end up being his downfall by the end of this, once they get a hold of the small folk. Again, that's the other theme of this season, of who the small folk are, what they stand for, and they're not getting paid, and you ain't letting them leave. Some shit's about to go down with the small folk, because that's what revolution really and truly looks like, is when the small folk get involved. So I'm very interested to see what Aemon's power continues to look like, but also the ways in which it can be overthrown as well.
Man, I gotta say, this episode might have solidified something for me. Coming into the season, I was Team Black, all for the blacks here, but I gotta admit, the story on the side of the Greens, it's exponentially more interesting than what we're seeing with Team Rhaenyra. I just got to be real. Like, everything on their side is just so juicy. Like, from the stuff with Cole and Alicent, Larys, Aemond, Aegon, their little rivalry, King's Landing as a city, and what that ultimately means. Like, that's really where the story is. Like, to be quite honest, like, that's where the best stuff is happening. Of course, like the blacks and like what's happening with Rhaenyra and their losses, and Daemon on this side quest and what he's doing, still good stuff. But man, what's happening within the walls of King's Landing it's really good stuff that they're doing here. So I'm not gonna say I'm necessarily Team Green, but from a story perspective, I'm absolutely Team Green. They're they're killing it, because all of the stuff that's developing here is just so interesting, and there's so many repercussions too for what's going to come down the line. Speaking of Daemon, though, I mean, he's still he's still fucking around in Luigi's mansion, doing what he's doing. It's having these nightmares and these hallucinations. I mean, he had a dream that he was fucking his mother. Like, good God,
Crazy.
it's just
so crazy.
It's so crazy at this point, and I called for it. I wanted it, but I'm also like, free my guy. Get out these chains, bro. Like, you got to get out of here. This place is killing you. It is literally destroying you. You're barely eating. You're not sleeping. Like, you are just not. You're not on your game at this point. But we do get more insight into what he ultimately wants. He reveals his true intentions, which is no real surprise. But he believes that he should be sitting on the throne. He thinks that he should be the king. He should be in charge, and ultimately, he wants Rhaenyra to still fight side by side with him, but he should indeed be the one sitting on the Iron Throne. And so they make it a point to really harp on that, and we see him still working with Lord Blackwood, trying to do things to win over, the whole war and conflict between the Brackens and the Blackwoods. All these things are shaping up, but even like in the last moments of what we see with this character, we see these sort of revolters, come to him within the castle, and they're like, we're not following you. We don't believe in you. Like, you did this, all of these things. Like, you're an evil person. And they also, sort of expose him and call him out for him being responsible for the death of Aegon's son at King's Landing. And he's like, that's a lie. That's not true. But we obviously know that is the case. What did you make of just like Daemon in terms of where he's at? Because he's certainly not holding it secret anymore that he thinks he should be the one in charge. But at the same time, he still hasn't fully won over all the forces that I think he needs to win over in order to really make a case for himself when he does ultimately decide to return to Dragonstone and confront Rhaenyra about who's going to be in charge.
Man, there was such a funny line in this part to me because Damon's talking to, I forgot what his name is, but he's talking to old boy. And he's like, so what would you call it? What would you call the husband of the queen? And he goes, the king, consort. He's like, I don't know about that last part. Like, you don't gotta leave that last part in. I think that's so funny because Daemon really doesn't want to be seen as a consort. But man, I think the Targaryens and probably a lot of people, I think, around King's Landing have been living in their own world for so long that, like, they don't know anything that's going on out here. Like, they don't understand how these people think, how these people operate. And they're like, who do you think you are, bro? You're like, you gonna have to set me on fire. I love that about them. They're like, what are you saying to me? One, you're not coming with respect. We don't like that. Two, you're moving shady. We don't like that either. Like, they're kind of standing on business out here. And Daemon is not ready to hear a lot of that stuff. And it's really funny to me in that moment too, because Daemon put on his Sunday's best armor. I thought that was hilarious. Like, why you got this armor on, bro? What do you think is about to go down? Like, he's literally trying to be like a shining knight in this moment. Like, look at me, everybody. I'm intimidating. I have a dragon, and y'all should let me rule this shit. And they're like, nah, bro. Like, we don't care about all that. We care about loyalty around here. And it sounds like you don't have it. So I really like that about these people out here, man. They not playing none of that. But yeah, the dude's going through it. I think a lot of his realities are being kind of just kind of broken in a lot of different ways. He is going crazy in the castle. He did have a dream about having sex with his mom, which is insane. But also, you're not as powerful in terms of as you think you are on that dragon. That's another reality that's kind of being broken for him. So I love kind of it's almost like Damon's kind of being put in his place out here with Harrenhal and this whole area, man. It's kind of interesting to see, but also there's nothing that doesn't say he's not going to come out stronger because of it. Still, I still think this is like still a building arc for what Daemon is going to become. There's that line that they say, I don't know if it's from the book or one of the showrunners said it, but they say Daemon is equal parts villain as he's equal parts hero. You know what I mean? It's like there is a lot of this that's like I think is going to make Daemon better by the end of it. So we'll see what happens, but I still like the arc he's going through in all of this. I think it's so interesting.
Can't fuck with a witch. Then this witch is really dragging him down. She's really dragging him down. Like, man, I never thought he would fucking dream about something like that. He probably never thought his mother. Oh, okay. All right. That's what we're doing now. Get away from the witch, Daemon. Leave her. Leave Harrenhal. I don't know if it's worth it, but it is going to ultimately make him stronger and make a case for himself. I mean, They need people, they need forces, they need men to fight in this battle. That's a lot of
They
what
do.
this is about. And so much so, I want to talk about the ending of the episode with Rhaenyra and Jacaerys. By the way, Jace making moves in this episode.
Killing it.
He's been
Killing it.
forefront, making moves in everybody's faces, striking up allegiances. I mean, earlier in the episode, he gets the allegiance of the phrase. He basically gets their troops. Probably doesn't realize the massive amount of shit that they're going to be responsible for in a couple hundred years here, but ultimately he gets their allegiance, and then he goes back to Dragonstone and he talks to his mother Rhaenyra, and he gives her a really interesting idea. He's like, we need more dragons. She's like, we need more dragons. Really, she's like, we need more at this point, because not only are we losing dragons, but also the dragons and their power and their prominence. It's not as decisive and not as intimidating probably as it should be at this point. And Jace is like, we might have another opportunity here to bolster more forces, to get more people on our side, because there are other Targaryens out there, half-bloods and bastard children, that technically aren't claimed, but they are a part of our family bloodline, and they potentially can ride Dragonback. We don't know that for sure yet, but it's probably worth a try. And they have a whole documentation sort of library about these bastard children, these half-blood Targaryens that are out there in all of these different empires, all these different houses, that they could potentially reach out to join them in this fight. And that's sort of where we leave the episode, the insinuation that they're going to start to reach out to these different children, these different people a part of their lineage, to try to figure out how we can get more dragons, and also how we can get people on the backs of dragons to be a part of this massive army. Because Rhaenyra's like, just send me out. I got to fight. I have to fight. It's going to come down to me. And he's like, well, wait a second. There's another way to go about this. How do you feel about, his movements and what he was doing in this episode, but then also the implications for what this might mean for just their forces and how they're shaping up in this bigger battle, potentially reaching out to all these bastard children and half-blood Targaryens that are out there in Westeros?
Yeah, first shout out to Jace, man. The dude is he's killing it. Two, I guess he's well studied now too. Like, even bringing that up is like, wait a second, you've been reading something? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like, the fact that he had that idea, I think is like, damn, this dude's kind of smart. Like, where'd you get this from, Jace? Good job. And I'm sure Rhaenyra as a mother is like, damn, I raised a good ass son. And Luke would probably be like this too if he didn't get eaten by a dragon, which is great. But man, what a cool idea. And in this world, they're called dragon seeds, which I love. I love the term dragon seed. It's something cool about that. It's like, y'all done planted some of these seeds. Y'all got so many bastard kids out here that y'all don't know about. And the part of the reason I love this concept so much of finding these dragon seeds or bastard children of the Targaryens and bringing them together, it's like, I mean, Jon Snow, that's what we talking, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, we have that concept in Game of Thrones. This is really cool that we're talking about it this early. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, shoot, because I actually didn't expect that from the show at all. But in thinking about it, we have talked about week to week some of these random dragon seeds that we got laying around. There's old boy that was in the what is it, the brothel. Then you got the Allens, or what is it, Corliss's kids, or whatever, Alan and Adam. So there's just so much, I think, out there for them to find. And then of course there's Hugh, right? One of our main people who's asking for money because his daughter is sick. And it's like, oh shoot, wait, we might have another dragon seed out here that we've been seeing at the forefront. And I think I had been questioning, like, why are they bringing up these dragon seeds? But now in this moment, it's like, oh shoot, that's why I've been bringing it up. It has been revealed of why I've been showing them, I think, in this manner. So I think it's a cool idea. I don't think it'll work out. Like, this ain't a superhero film, you know what I'm saying? Like, some shit is going to go wrong with this plan. I just don't know what it is yet. But I like the ambition in order to get there. I think it's a really cool idea. I love how, like, Rhaenyra's light bulb also goes off in that moment, because she could easily been like, that's a terrible idea. And part of me also feels like if it wasn't Rhaenyra, if it was a king and not a queen like Rhaenyra, they would have been like, no, we're not doing that. Sorry, we're not doing that. We you know, their pride might have been too much. Their ego might have been too much. But because it's Rhaenyra's like, that's not a bad idea, son. So I think it's a really cool idea. And yeah, I'm very interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, some of them dragons ain't going for that shit, but it's
not
certainly worth the effort for sure. I mean, you're in a desperate time, in a desperate situation. You should reach out to every possible family lineage member you can. I mean, bloodline this shit up. Call them. Like, where we at? Like, y'all pulling up? Like, we need everybody because the forces at King's Landing are just so vast and so strong, and they have so many people working on their behalf. And so to see Jace making these movements, I just love the fact that he stepped up so much, already in the season, and in particular this episode. Like, people just kind of have to do certain things in order to ensure that they're going to be formidable enough when it comes time to battle. Even what Daemon is doing in Harrenhal, I mean, it's in some ways undermining Rhaenyra, but ultimately it's going to aid them in these forces that they are gathering. But it's a really good way to get more people into the fold and to go sort of outside of the parameters of what's considered traditional and considered like the right way to do things, and to say like, well, in actuality, they technically they do have our blood. This is a possibility that we can explore. And so that was really good stuff that they did. I love that we ended off the episode here. And it certainly points to, again, more characters that can be exposed to death and destruction. I mean, the more we introduce, the more they can be just like picked apart and taken off the board. I'm like, I'm here for it, because lives will be lost for sure. As we wrap up here, any other like final beats, final character moments, or other moments that happened throughout the course of the episode that you want to touch on before we officially wrap up?
I don't think so. I think that was everything for the most part. I feel like there was something with Lena, but I can't remember what it was. I remember, I can't remember what it was. But other than that, I just want to say that they got to get Silverwing more than Sea Smoke and the other dragon, because Silverwing is known as like the other big dragon that's as big as Vhagar, the huge one. They got to get him. I don't know who's gonna be on that thing, but they got to get him. It might be Hugh, to be honest. Like, that might be the foreshadowing there. It's like, hey, Hugh, maybe his daughter dies from the sickness, right? And he's like, over all this shit, you know what I'm saying? And so I think it might be him. But yeah, they need that dragon for sure. But yeah, that's all I got.
The only other thing I'll point out, I just loved how back at King's Landing, Aemond is staring at the Iron Throne, and Helena just reads him for fucking filth. She just knows immediately. Oh, was it worth the price? Like, what the fuck? She immediately knows he's on bullshit. Read through him completely. He has nothing to say. He has no response, because, like, yeah, you know what you did, bro. I know you. She gave him a fucking Michael Corleone Alfredo. I know it was you. I know you did this shit. I just can't prove it about it. Probably, right, exactly. Probably dreamt about it. She's been calling for the fucking rats this entire episode. She's like, the whole time. The people are in the house. Like, this is what's wrong with everything. Nobody outside. It's the forces within here. So I just love that she got to that place. Like, yeah, you did that shit. Really, really good moment for her. Small as it was, really, really good stuff. But ultimately, we will have to see how things go with episode 6 when it arrives next week on HBO. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on episode 5 of House of the Dragon season 2. If you've checked out this episode, definitely hit us up and let us know what you think.